Hi folks, my name is Linda Emmett and welcome to Happiness is an Inside Job. We are the creators of our own reality, we create our own lives. Our mind is our biggest limit and it's our own beliefs, behaviours and habits constantly caught in those cycles that keep us trapped where we are and stand in the way of our own happiness. So throughout this podcast, we're going to take a deep dive into some of those beliefs, habits and patterns, where they show up in your lives and what you can do to change them. Hi folks, on this week's podcast we're going to look at and talk about jealousy and envy, the green-eyed monster. So first we're going to take a look at what they are and then how they show up in our lives and what we can do, because we all struggle with jealousy from time to time and envy. So it's fabulous to get an understanding of what they are, allow it to be okay for them to show up in our lives with an understanding of what's driving them in the first place, so we can figure out what's really going on with ourselves and how we can change it, because none of us want to live within jealousy and feel those emotions on a regular basis. So are you ready, folks? So first, looking at what jealousy is. And jealousy is usually thoughts or feelings of fear, insecurity, and feeling like we lack something within ourselves. And how we show it generally is through anger, resentment, and we can often feel quite inadequate around someone else. We feel like we're not good enough, like we're lacking something within ourselves, and that can make us feel a little bit powerless and literally turn in on ourselves. So as I say, it's a normal human emotion to feel, but it's when we're living in that space that it's causing problems. We're in our relationships and within ourselves. The next one would be envy, and envy is slightly different. Now they're quite similar, but there are differences. Envy would be more when you want what someone else has. It's more specific, like feeling that someone has something that you want, and it's more rooted in comparison. When we find ourselves comparing ourselves to other people, be it their car, their role, their home, their body, whatever it is, we're comparing ourselves to them and we're seeing a lack within ourselves, and we basically desire to have what that other person has. Now, as I say, folks, jealousy and envy can serve a positive role in our lives. Like envy, for example, if we're seeing someone, say, that's really fit, healthy, confident and happy, this can often trigger us when we see that within someone else. That can often trigger us to change, to start going to the gym, eating better, going for walks, or changing the relationships we're in. So it does serve a positive purpose. It's only if we're living there and in constant comparison with other people and in constant lack. With jealousy, the positive purpose it can serve is, it can drive us to want more of something. Like it can serve as a reminder for us to cherish the relationships we have, to prioritize our friends. Like if we went out and we were sitting in a restaurant and we seen a group of friends sitting around roaring, laughing, having a joke, really connected with one another, that we can get a bit of envy kick in that moment where we're envious of what they have. And that can trigger us then to think of our own friends and go, well, do you know what? I don't see me friends as much as I want to. I don't get to have fun, have the laughs. So I'm going to go and add more of that into my life. I'm going to make plans to see me friends. I'm going to pick up that phone and call that loved one. Or as they say, if it's with our body or our health, I'm going to start going to the gym. It drives us doing positive things. So it does. Both envy and jealousy absolutely serve a positive purpose. But it's when, as I say, we're living in our own insecurities, because that's what jealousy is rooted in. It's rooted in our own insecurities, our own feelings of lack, and that triggers the fear then that because we lack, people, loved ones, are going to abandon us. We're going to be replaced, or it also triggers fears of judgment, that other people are judging us, they're talking about us, when in effect it's our own judgment that's coming down on us. It's our own judgment, our own lack within, that's actually triggering it. So when we look at, I suppose, where jealousy shows up in our lives, it's generally in our closest relationships, but it can be triggered by possessions that other people have, that home, those holidays, that car, that a particular life others are living that we're jealous of. It can be triggered by status, by someone getting a promotion, launching their career, different things like that. Again, it can bring us back to our own lack. We're looking and seeing these things in others that we covet or we crave. And because of our own insecurities, we're not driving towards those things ourselves, and we're looking at others, and then it's triggering jealous feelings. And this drives our insecurities, and then it can show up in our behaviors, in particular in our relationships. We can see it in possessiveness, when we become quite controlling. We're in our relationships when we think we own the person rather than we're with them. We're in a relationship with them. We want to know where they are, what they're doing, texting all the time, trying to control who they're with when they're with them, trying to control when they're with you. That possessiveness, that ownership can come in with jealousy, and it can have a huge negative impact on the relationship. Aggression also comes along with jealousy, where we're getting angry because people aren't doing what we want when we want them to. So to us, that means that they don't value us, appreciate us, or respect us. That's driven again from our jealousy. And the last one, and I'm laughing because this is where how I behave within jealousy, is manipulation. We'll try to manipulate the situation. And what I mean by that is, if I and I think honestly it certainly would have showed up with my daughter, because she's one of the great loves of my life, and I would have had her very much to myself for a long time. So then when it came to having to share her with boyfriends and different things like that, then I would find myself really manipulating the situation. The slightest thing the boyfriend may do, no way, did he? And I would start manipulating the situation, and I'd be, God, wonder why he treated you like that or did that. And basically, my form of it is getting in other people's heads. So, and manipulating the situation that they dislike the person that I'm jealous of. And that's how it shows up, certainly in my life. And I've had to learn from that. And again, with my daughter, allow her to grow and want more relationships for her in her life. But that's one of the ways it shows up with me, with friends, or if in any way that I feel threatened. That's my go-to to try and manipulate the situation, that they're also judging the other person, or starting to turn or dislike the other person, or how that other person is treating them. Therefore, they'll see me for all that I am and come running back to me. That's my form of jealousy, and something that I have to work on. And again, especially in our closer relationships, where we're more attached and we don't want to share, but that's not love. And we often think that, jealousy only shows up in romantic relationships, but it doesn't. It shows up in any space that something's of meaning to us, that we can feel a lack or an insecurity within ourselves. In the romantic relationships, you'll see it show up as, possibly stalking the other person's Instagram, checking their feeds, checking back on old boyfriends and girlfriends, seen as the person that they're in a relationship with now, taller, nicer, smarter than you believe you are, all of these things. It can also show up hugely within our family with our siblings, because as we were growing up, our siblings were praised possibly for different things than we were, and we competed with our siblings for affection, for love, for all of these things. Even as babies, as children, when a younger sibling was born, we possibly had to compete to keep our parents' attention and to keep their love and things like that. And, we're hardwired for our survival, and getting our parents' love and sense of belonging, attention and care is wired into our survival mechanism. So jealousy would be sparked. And as I say, you see it in children, giving their brother or sister a slap. We can't get away with that as adults. We might be arrested, but it's certainly how we would have reacted as children. And again, that's just jealousy and anger, then trying to hurt that other person or get that other person offside. in the workspace as adults, it can show up quite a bit as well when a new person comes on board, full of ideas, enthusiasm, or a co-worker gets a promotion, or we feel that they're doing the job better than us. It can show up in our workspace, and it can have us far more focused on the other person rather than focusing on ourselves. And it can turn our workplace into somewhere we don't want to be, where we feel a huge sense of lack within ourselves in work, that we're constantly striving to do more, be more, and the productivity is driven way up to keep up with this other person. And this is all driven from jealousy. Within relationships, bouncing back to our relationships, for men within romantic relationships, there's been countless studies that have shown that men will tend to get more jealous and more threatened by the fear of cheating, sexual infidelity. It'd be far more on male radar than female radar, whereas women would tend to get more jealous about another female's attractiveness, that they're better looking, and they'd be more concerned about emotional infidelity, that how your partner or boyfriend is connecting and talking to this other person. That tends to trigger females more, and the males, as I say, their fear it'd be more sexual infidelity. But again, this can drive a wedge in relationships if we're not dealing with it. And what starts showing up in the relationship is, resentment, anger, hostility, passive aggressiveness, and later bitterness. And as they say about resentment alone, resentment is like drinking a little bit of poison every day, but expecting the other person to die. Or resentment and bitterness eat you up inside. So if it's a thing that we're experiencing, it's, and especially in large doses, if something is shifted or changed within our lives, or if we're venturing into something new, that's when we can feel our most vulnerable and our most insecure, and jealousy can show up in large amounts and be hugely impacting how we're moving forward. But as I mentioned, we all experience it to a level, and it comes from our own lack. And it's recognizing that and knowing the difference between when we get a little bit of spark of jealousy, we get a little bit of envy of our partners being around other people, or a co-worker, that drives us forward, that drives us to step it up again, to wake up a bit and start getting out there and doing those things for ourselves, or drives us more within the workspace and things like that. That's natural and healthy and normal. Or if, with children and things like that, if there's, a new boyfriend on the scene, or a new potential mother-in-law that does things differently to you, it's, as I say, it's natural for it to show up in small doses, but it's when it's shown up in larger amounts, which comes from our own self-worth and value in ourselves. That can come from a very deep-rooted sense of lack within ourselves, and this is where it can be having detrimental changes, both in how we're feeling in ourselves every single day, and the relationships we're in, and how much we're moving forward in our own lives, and how much we're just watching other people and looking at what they're getting, how they're living, and completely focused on that, be it across social media, friends, networks, wherever you are. But if you're constantly watching how well other people are doing, well, then there's very little focus going on yourself, and that's hugely impacting your life. And it can turn to quite an irrational jealousy, and this is when we're running on all emotion, and this is where we start seeing some of the traits of it, where we go into a huge amount of distrust. We're acting obsessive, possessing, thinking we own people rather than are in relationships with them, thinking we own things. Different, within work, different learnings. We're not willing to show other people how to do things because, that'll make them even better than us. If we're criticising a lot, if we're putting people down, and that's coming from our own insecurities, we're, trying to keep people where we feel. As they say, misery loves company. And I do believe when we're low on ourselves, sometimes we lash out, we attack, and that comes from jealousy as well. When we're fault finding all the time, or we're finding reasons to blame other people on basically how we're feeling ourselves, and that's what it is. We're overprotective with children, with our pets, with siblings. We're not allowing them to grow and flourish. And we're acting extremely overprotective. And there's times, of course, as parents, siblings, with any loved ones, even in relationships, we are protective, of course. That's a normal instinct. But when we're limiting that person and it's coming in from control, that's when it's really taking control of your life. Or when you're experiencing, rage, when you're not able to control the situation, when your stress levels are going through the roof, because you can't control what those other people are doing. You can't keep them in that box. Again, this is where it's going into overdrive. It's in the driving seat of our lives. And this is when we really have to take a look at it, because there's a huge difference between rational jealousy that we do all experience. And this would be more, I suppose, when the reason is a bit more genuine, when something has shifted in our lives, a new male, female, co-worker, sibling, friend, mother-in-law, or whatever has come on board, and we're slightly triggered. Our life has changed a bit, and this can ignite a feeling of fear of loss. And this shows up for all of us at time to time, especially when we're stepping into or doing something new. And we can rationalize it and we can talk ourselves down. We experience it, but then we stop to understand it and we can move through it. That's natural and normal for us all. But when we're moving into a more pathological or morbid jealousy, or we're living there and this is irrational, when we're really getting carried away with our own stories, our behaviours are changing because of it. We're having a lot of those negative or unhealthy emotions, and it's triggering anxiety within us or extreme insecurity, and we're driven to try and control and manipulate either those people or situations. That's when it's crossing the boundary for us as healthy, and it is going to have a direct impact on your health and well-being, but also those relationships are those people that your loved ones, those people that you're around. This is where it starts having a massive impact, and it's in the driving seat of your own life. So it's hugely, as I say, impacting you and how you're living. If we were to look at, I suppose, how to work with it, one, it's knowing the difference between a natural, normal, but as I say, where the human experience is to feel all emotions, and they all serve a positive purpose. But it's when they're in the driving seat, that's when we can have serious issues. They can impact our own mental health, triggering anxiety, triggering stress, insecurity, self-worth, all of those things. So knowing the difference in how often it's shown up in your life, who it's shown up around, this alone can often show us what the lack is that we feel, because it is internal. Like our jealousy and our envy is coming from an insecurity within ourselves. It's something we believe we lack, that it's tied in with the not good enoughs. I'm not good enough, smart enough, lovable enough, sexy enough, intelligent enough, whatever our not enoughs is. So it's understanding and seeing what situations that we're getting insecure within. Because for a lot of the time, and for all of us, we have a self-image of who we believe we should be, and we try stay aligned and we're in that. And if someone else comes along and triggers that, or starts chipping away at that and starts hitting at our lack or making us feel less than, that's when we can really start reacting, and it's coming through, as I say, in our behaviours, be it losing a partner or fear of losing a partner, losing a job, not getting that promotion, wherever it is. It's understanding where it's shown up for you, what space in your life it's shown up for you, who are you around when it's shown up, and then confronting yourself, understanding why you're feeling the lack. What is it you believe that you don't have enough of? Within our relationships, it's looking at your relationships and what are the expectations that you have. Often we can see and view, well, the others in the world through our own eyes. We have ways of loving people and showing we care and showing that that person matters to us. And when them exact behaviours are not reciprocated for us, we can often react badly. We take it as, oh, well, they don't appreciate us, love us, or respect us. When a lot of the time, it just means that that other person shows their love, shows their affection or their appreciation in a different way. It's not their language. It's not their language of love or respect or appreciation. But sometimes we can be blindsided to that because we're looking from where we are and we set specific expectations for what others should do to make us feel a particular way. So looking at your own expectations of how you feel love, how you feel you belong, how you feel others care about you and what they are. And then opening up your eyes to the people you surround yourself with, what acts they do to actually show you what's their way of showing that they care and they love you. Because the weight of our own expectations can be all consuming at times, and the expectations we then put on others for how they've to show us how they feel or that they need or value us. And if we're not getting those met, we can be really triggered. And the best way of getting through that, as I say all the time, is communication. If we're not communicating verbally, we are communicating through our behaviour. So having those open, honest conversations within your relationships, if you're feeling threatened, if you're feeling scared, if you're feeling afraid or jealous, it's coming from your insecurities. So talking them out with that person and letting them know how you feel, talking them out with yourself and understanding what's triggering them for you in the first place, what's driving them. Understanding what situations, these are all the things that help you move through them, and it stops there being such a big space for misunderstanding. You're misinterpreting that person because you're coming from assumption, because you're not having those conversations. So communication is absolutely key, one with yourself and then with others, because as I say, it's perfectly normal to feel a level of jealousy and envy within our lives, because life is changing all the time. So we're put into different situations. We might join a new class where we want to hide down the back and there's no space somewhere up the front. And, we feel a little vulnerable, we feel a little insecure, and it's owning that and letting yourself know it's okay. Because if we're not doing that, we're then looking around the classroom at the others that are prancing and dancing around like experts and wanting to be like them, because we're not allowing ourselves the space to learn and grow ourselves, and instead we're looking on to others and how much better they are, which is triggering the jealousy. So owning where you are in your path, on your path in your life, have an acceptance of that, have an acceptance of your whole array of emotions, and it being okay to feel them, just not live there. That's the difference. When we're living in a particular emotion, we're stuck and we're becoming consumed by it, and it's our lack of willingness to look at it because we deem jealousy or envy as bad, so we put them in a box and pretend we don't feel these things, when in fact we do. And if we don't pay attention to it, they can creep up and become bigger and bigger and create bonfires, and then you find yourself manipulating situations or trying to manipulate other people's thinking so the other person likes you more. So it's learning, understanding, and above all else, communication is absolutely key. So that's it for me for this week, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it and got some fabulous takeaways. And as always, I invite you to connect in with me across social media, or check me out on my website, www.yourgifttoyou.com, or email me, linda@yourgifttoyou.com, guys, because I'd love to hear from you and any topics you'd like for us to talk about or any more learnings that you want. And please remember, give me those reviews because it keeps the podcast getting out there to more people. So chat to you very soon, guys. Bye-bye.